Peak leveling is back, and with that, our protagonist Sung Jin-woo continues to amass huge amounts of power so quickly that it makes Rey from Star Wars' progression seem slow and well-paced. So today, let's both do a deep dive and a recap of each of Sung Jin-woo's powers, skills, attributes, and equipment, and determine as accurately as possible how powerful Sung Jin-woo currently is. To do this, we'll first go over what his abilities, skills, and various other passives do, then we'll use inverse examples by analyzing various scenes from his fights to contextualize and showcase how exactly they would impact the world so we can fully grasp how powerful Sung Jin-woo genuinely is. Sung Jin-woo is the player, and as such has access to the system. In a broad sense, think of this as his terminal into the RPG elements of the power system. The system will give him quests that reward him with various prizes, be it money, equipment, or just raw experience points towards leveling up. For all intents and purposes, he is a Final Fantasy protagonist, and like them, when he levels up, all of his stats increase by 1, and he also is given an unspecified amount of skill points that he himself can allocate in any way he chooses. His attributes are broken down into 5 subcategories. Strength increases his physical strength and durability, as you might imagine, but also directly affects how quickly he can move in battle, given that the strength increase isn't solely tied to the strength of his arms. Think back to Season 1 when he first entered the D-rank dungeon and fought against the Steel-Fanged Wolves. Even though he primarily increased his strength, his speed visibly increased dramatically, despite his strength stat nearly doubling that of his agility. Whereas agility improves his reflexes primarily, allowing him to react to attacks and defend himself more accurately. This attribute is more neuromuscular in nature, allowing his brain to keep up with the immense speed and strength that his body is capable of. Think of how the Sharingan functions in Naruto. Vitality increases both his raw HP and his stamina stat. Unlike Dark Souls, Sung Jin-woo doesn't need to level 2 independent stats to increase his capacity for long drawn-out fights. Thanks, Miyazaki.
Pleasant day.
Perception increases his physical senses like sight and hearing. It also makes him much more perceptive to mana, meaning he can sense how powerful someone is more easily, or determine where a more powerful foe may be just by sensing their aura. He has utilized this attribute to both determine with some accuracy another hunter's rank, or even the correct path towards a boss just by the aura they had given off. And of course there's intelligence, which increases both his maximum mana and increases his magical capacity. Despite Sung Jin-woo appearing more and more intelligent as the series continues, this stat has no direct correlation with how smart he genuinely is. Rather, the fact that he appears more savvy is due to the ensemble effect of each of his stats growing, alongside his newly gained experience in dealing with a myriad of dangerous threats. And that's it for his stats, so let's go over his abilities, passives, and titles next. As far as basic abilities go, Sung Jin-woo has access to 6 active ones and 4 passive ones. His passive abilities are sometimes more difficult to remember that they exist, since the show doesn't really put emphasis on them, so let's at least cover them briefly. Will to Rehabilitate heals him from diseases, poisons, and whatever the system classifies as a status effect. This can range from paralysis or something as benign as drunkenness. It also greatly increases his regeneration ability whilst sleeping, which effectively gives him a long rest type effect that you might see in Baldur's Gate 3. Advanced Dagger Arts is a flat 33% damage increase while he utilizes daggers, and Perseverance reduces all damage he receives by 50% when below 30% total HP. Lastly, Kandairu's Blessing is sort of ambiguous, but ensures that Sung Jin-woo will be strong and healthy for the duration of his lifetime. He received this one from the secret quest during his venture into the Double Dungeon at the beginning of the show. His active abilities come up more frequently and are the mainstay for how he combats most opponents, at least until he became a Shadow Monarch. Bloodlust is his fear ability that applies a debuff to the enemies that lowers their stats by 50%. It cannot be used against enemies that are stronger than him, so generally it won't be that relevant when he combats difficult dungeon bosses. However, when he utilized this against Kang, it acted like a genjutsu from Naruto, psychologically debilitating Kang with just a single glance. Dash, at the cost of 1 mana per minute, with an activation cost of 5 to activate, increases his speed by 30%. As the skill evolves, the increase to his speed also grows as well. Think of this like Flash Step or Shunshin from Bleach or Naruto respectively. Vital Strike is something more of a crit mechanic where he deals increased damage when attacking foes' vital areas, but what this effectively has translated to is Sung Jin-woo stabbing the ever-living hell out of his enemies in the eyes. I mean, it's gotta actually be a meme at this point. Stealth conceals his presence from each of the senses and even technology, but costs an insane 20 mana per second to maintain, with an activation cost of 200. Since he currently only has around 2,000 total mana, the skill tends to find use in short bursts to surprise his foes. This ability has been seen to be countered by high-level mages, as seen in the Job Change quest and the most recent episode with the A-rank mages. His last 2 skills work in tandem, so I'll go over them together. Dominator's Touch is basically a free use of telekinesis, allowing him to lift objects of varying weights and manipulate them freely. At first, he wasn't too capable with his skill, but as time went on, he has been shown to tear apart high orcs, which apparently were great threats to even A-rank hunters. He uses this skill with a dagger throw ability, which just allows him to throw his dagger with increased strength and accuracy. It's not the most ingenuitive of all of his abilities, but not all of them can be bangers. Additionally, he has the ability to fully recover himself from any injury once per day, regardless of its severity, so long as he has completed his daily training quest. This healing effect has been shown to instantly regenerate lost limbs, as seen during his fight with Cerberus. Next, let's talk about his class. As a Shadow Monarch, Jinwoo's primary abilities revolve around the Arise command, in which he can extract fallen enemies as shadows, creating copies of them that will do his bidding and fight alongside him. The number of shadows he can summon at one time is limited to his mana capacity. However, as we've seen when Jinwoo faced off against the Alpha Ice Bear, the mana cost for each shadow seems to only deplete after the shadow is defeated. Generally speaking, the vast majority of his current shadows aren't too powerful, with a notable exception of 3. Igris was his first named shadow, and was the first serious roadblock Jinwoo faced due to his immense power. Igris absolutely pummeled Jinwoo throughout their fight. I mean, he literally ragdolled Jinwoo the entire battle, slicing easily through stone pillars and showcasing speed well above even what Jinwoo was capable of at every point in the fight. Had it not been for the inventory mechanic, this battle was without a doubt a complete wash for Jinwoo. Speaking of which, the inventory mechanic is exactly what you would imagine. Jinwoo can access all of his items nearly instantly, but also can access a shop function in order to buy potions, weapons, armor, and a bevy of other useful items that aid him in battle. The Alpha Bear is his second notable shadow with no real notable abilities other than just being a freakishly large bear, which genuinely is more than enough. It had the power to completely decimate Jinwoo's regular shadow forces, but of course was eventually taken down. Lastly, there's Iron, who is formerly an A-rank hunter. Without a doubt, Iron is a tank-class shadow who legitimately has a taunt that provokes enemies and prompts them to attack. Finally, there's equipment. Other than Casca's Venom Fang, which applies both a paralysis and bleed effect to weaker targets, he primarily uses the Night Killer, which increases the damage Jinwoo does against armored enemies. However, he recently obtained Baruka's Dagger, but as of the anime, its effects have not been showcased. Then there's his armor, which just provides flat stat upgrades or percentage damage reduction, which narratively don't really matter, and prove to just allow the riders more leeway in how much damage he can tank without breaking the immersion. Some notable pieces are the Gatekeeper's Necklace, which increases his agility and perception by 20, the High Knight Chestplate and Gauntlet, which improves his physical damage reduction by a total of 10%, and the Red Knight Helmet, which further increases his physical damage reduction by another 15% and boosts both his strength and stamina by a flat 20. He also has 2/3 of the Demon Monarch set, with the earrings and the necklace currently, which boosts his stats by 20 strength, vitality, agility, and intelligence, with a set bonus applying another +5 to all his stats. Finally, he has the Wolf Slayer title, which on top of all of his percentage boosts, increases all of his stats when he's fighting a beast-type enemy by a whopping 40%. As of right now, this is everything that Sun Jinwoo is capable of, but what does it all mean? Stat increases, passives, titles, and equipments mean nothing when there's nothing to contextualize it. So let's do just that. To do this, we're going to look at various feats throughout the show and use those to gain a better understanding of how powerful he is. Most notably, there's this statement from Cha Hae-in, an S-rank hunter so powerful that she was immediately made into the vice president of the guild that recruited her, the same guild with the ultimate Wempet hunter in their ranks. In this scene, she compares the aura that Jinwoo is giving off to that of Chairman Go's, and this is absolutely insane when you think about it. If you aren't aware who Chairman Go is, it's this dude, the grizzled old dude with scars and joyful demeanor. And if you watch any anime whatsoever, you know damn well this dude is an ass kicker. To give further context, Chairman Go was the first S-rank hunter of Korea and is well regarded as one of the most powerful people on the planet. Remember that there were only 10 recorded S-ranks in Korea, which puts Jinwoo and Chairman Go in the highest of high tiers on the continent and planet overall. And Jinwoo was able to make this guy's heart beat so loudly in his chest that bro had to take the rest of the day off. Jinwoo is beyond powerful, and it really still feels like he's just tapping into his power. But since Cha Hae-in's statement was just that, let's look at some other instances of real combat that kind of blow my mind. We have this statement from his fight with Kang, where apparently they traded 200 blows in a blink of an eye. A blink on average can last between 0.1 seconds and 0.4 seconds, and these two characters traded blows in a fraction of a second. But Jinwoo has surpassed this version of himself that fought Kang by several dozen levels, so to think that he would still be anywhere near this tier would be insane. To give some credence to this, after fighting Kang, we see Jinwoo's level at 27, still with the 5 ability points he earned after defeating Kang, with a strength and agility stat of 72 and 82 respectively. But after he defeated Igris, completed the survival quest and all of the centipedes, we see his strength now at 132 and his agility at 111, nearly doubling his strength and increasing his agility by nearly 50%. Now, if stat increases work linearly, which I don't think that they do, he would only be twice as fast now as he was when facing Kang, and that just certainly can't be true considering Kang was a B rank hunter and Jinwoo is confirmed to be S rank at this point. And now on top of all of that, we just had the first half of the Demon Arc Tower where he takes on Vulcan, the boss of floor 50, and the hands that were thrown in this fight were unparalleled, especially this first punch. The force needed to generate this reaction from a creature this large. I mean, literally launching it several city blocks away is kind of wild, and really the only point of reference I can think of is when Sage Naruto threw Pain's summoned Rhino. And if we're comparing feats with Naruto or any other of the big three for that matter, it's a bit ridiculous. And lastly, as of the most recent episode against the High Orcs, the show makes a great deal of effort to tell us how powerful a group of hunters like this dungeon party is, how capable they are by their demeanor, their power, and of course their drip. So when Jinwoo manages to solo the entire High Orc force with such finesse and speed that only the mages were aware of his movements by the magical output is insane to comprehend, and does a lot to give us some perspective based on his contemporaries and other high-rank hunters in how powerful Jinwoo actually is. All in all, Jinwoo is a powerhouse, taking the best features from both the mage and assassin playstyle with the speed and strength to completely demolish any creature in his path. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, supporting the channel really helps out. Peace.